Hey everybody, it's your boy Captain Hunter coming at you again. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Make sure that you hit that rate button, subscribe, and share these videos and all that kind of good stuff. We're going to get into something that is really trending across the United States, and that is the shooting of a man in a wheelchair by a police officer who was working a special duty assignment, or probably more than likely what I would call an extra duty assignment, right? He's working at a Walmart. Well, at least I'm hearing conflicting details. Walmart, Lowe's, he's working somewhere in a mart like this, somewhere along those lines. So there's a guy who's attempting to steal a toolbox, or apparently he did steal a toolbox from a Walmart. And then is trying to get away from the officers. When he was confronted by store security, the man pulls a knife at the officer. Pulls a knife on the store security. So in pulling the knife, it goes from a larceny 6, more than likely, goes from a larceny 6 to a robbery, right? Once you use force and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not, so even though they say larceny and say, hey, you just stole a toolbox. Well, now when you actually use force and try to overcome overcome the resistance by the store security, right? The store security is now trying to exert their authority and say, listen, hey, you can't take this. Once that person brandishes a knife or threatens that person, threatens the store security individuals with a knife, now it goes from a larceny or shoplifting and up into a robbery. So you will hear shoplifting, but it's actually a robbery at this point, even though it's not classified as that. Arizona law may be different, but that's how it works here in Connecticut. So this is from the Independent. I tried to get something that's, fairly short article. So the Independent is based in the United Kingdom. Can't see it up there, but it's actually a UK newspaper here. So it says, News World America, U.S. crime news. Police business is messy. Arizona police officer defends shooting man in wheelchair 9 times. Right, so this was written 2 days ago, but by this guy, Josh Marcus, and probably his basing is out of San Francisco, so he's trying to get the details as well. So here's a video. I'm going to show a different video here because I think there's better videos that kind of explain everything. So we'll read through the article real quickly. In Arizona Police Department has moved to fire one of its officers who fired 9 shots at a man in a wheelchair accused of stealing a toolbox, killing him. The Tucson Police Department announced Tuesday it was terminating Officer Ryan Remington, a 4-year veteran who shot and killed 61-year-old Richard Lee Richards. Wow, Richard Lee Richards on Monday in the parking lot of a Walmart store. I think the actual occurrence happened on Monday. I'm recording this on a Sunday, so almost a week later, I'm actually getting to this. I'm a little tied up, but I don't always like to comment on these because I believe that due process, I believe that investigations have to come out, and just to immediately jump on something without knowing the facts, particularly, in my line of work, my consulting business, got to know the facts before you start commenting and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's time to really say something now. His deadly force in this incident is a clear violation of his department policy and directly contradicts multiple aspects of our use of force and training, Tucson Police Chief Chris Magnus said in a statement on Tuesday. Tucson Mayor Regine Romeo, meanwhile, condemned the shooting as unconscionable and indefensible. Mr. Remington, whose attorney has defended his actions as necessary, was called to the scene shortly before 6 p.m. on Monday while working off duty as a special assignment at a Walmart, according to police. That was a poorly written sentence. So Mr. Remington has an attorney. Mr. Remington has an attorney, and he was called to the scene after the shooting on Monday. The officer was working a special duty assignment. Wow, this guy's got rights for a living. Mr. Richards, who died of his wounds, allegedly stole a toolbox and brandished a knife at his employee who asked him to see a receipt, telling the worker, here's your receipt. The officer pursued Mr. Richards through the parking lot and called for backup, warning him to drop the weapon and not enter a nearby Lowe's store. Okay, so we went from a Walmart to a Lowe's store. Okay, there we go. If you want me to put down the knife, you're going to have to shoot me, Mr. Richards said, according to the Walmart employee. Mr. Remington's lawyer, Mike Story, defended the officer's actions as appropriate given the circumstances and said the policeman had tried to calm the situation before resorting to deadly force. He's trying to talk this guy down and de-escalate, and that's exactly what he's trying to do, Mike Story said, according to police, adding police business is messy at times. He also criticized local officials for commenting on the case before the full investigation was complete, saying the remarks would inflame the community. The Pima County's attorney's office is now reviewing the incident, which was captured from multiple angles on the police body camera and the CCTV. So we're going to watch the video. There's going to be a lot of warnings. So if you were watching this, if you have not seen the videos, I want to warn you that it is going to be graphic. We're going to show the videos. We're going to show it from multiple angles. First, the video is going to be them walking through the parking lot, and you can hear the officer radioing in. So as they leave from the Walmart on their way to a Lowe's, he's going to be radioing in exactly what's going on. The next video is going to be the actual shooting. And then the final one is going to be the shooting from the vantage point. And the first shooting, or the second video, is going to be the shooting from the vantage point of an arriving officer. Remember, this officer is working extra duty or special duty assignment. So therefore, I would assume, well, he doesn't have a body camera on, or that hasn't been released yet, I'm assuming. There's going to be another officer who's going to arrive on the scene to back up the initial officer. And then that officer is going to have a body camera, and we're going to see her recording as to the shooting. The final video that we're going to see is going to be that of the Lowe's their security system as the incident is captured from the vantage point of the Lowe's. So again, graphic warnings, all that kind of stuff. So here we go.
Knife in his other hand. Okay. Do not go to the store, sir.
Stop now! You need to stop.
Okay, so they did not show the. Okay, moments before the shooting. Here we go. Walmart parking lot.
Bravo 1-8.
Bravo 1-8.
You sent me an 84. I have a male suspect that just shoplifted. Right in front of him, he pulled a knife on me. He's currently westbound in the parking lot.
I need an additional unit to Bravo 1-8 at 1650 West Valencia Road. We're going to be 1039.
Bravo 1-8, copy. It's white male, flannel t-shirt, white hat. We're in front of the DD's discount. And Bravo 1-8, we're currently northbound on Oak Tree going towards the Lowe's. And Bravo 1-5 to 1U5. He's confronted by loss prevention. He pulled the knife on loss prevention while I was right there. Bravo 1-8. We're on the east side of Lowe's in the parking lot, so we're just west of Oak Tree. Still going southbound.
Okay, so you heard the officer say, I'm going to pause right here just to interject. The next one is going to be body-worn camera that's going to show up. So you hear the officer say he pulled a knife on me. Then a few moments later, he says while he's there with loss prevention, he pulled a knife there. So I'm assuming that while the officer was there with knife with loss prevention, that the guy pulled a knife on everyone who was trying to stop him from exiting the store. So here we go. Here's the officer arriving with and showing her body-worn camera.
Go to the store, sir.
Stop now!
Okay, so you hear him saying he's got a knife in his other hand. I'm going to rewind it just a little bit here. Hear that again.
Do not go to the store, sir.
Stop now! You need to stop.
Bravo 1-8, shots fired.
Okay, I want to take a moment here just to talk about this. I wasn't going to do this, but we're going to talk about training, and we're going to get into their policy a little bit. This is going to be a little bit of a, because I'm trying to understand this from the aspect of how does this happen? How does this officer, and I keep calling him guy, a former officer, go from being sounding fairly calm in the parking lot to then shooting this guy? How does that happen? I didn't interview this officer. I'm just going off my years of experience, my years of training officers. I'm really baffled by this, and I want to rewind it again so we can see this, so we can see, you know, exactly, you know, what's going on here. But it's really surprising to me that we walk into the parking lot. He sounds really calm, right? He's not yelling, screaming, "Oh, this guy pulled a knife!" We're walking through the Lowe's parking lot. We're northbound, we're eastbound, going this way, whatever. Almost at the Lowe's, he pulled a knife on me and lost prevention. Almost, you know, really kind of sounding really kind of dismissive about it, you know. So he goes from there. Now the other officer gets there. He tells the other officer that, oh, he's got a knife in his other hand. And then the next thing you know, there's 9 shots being fired. How does that happen? And the other officer too, the arriving officer, takes out her gun as well. We're gonna get into the policy, but here's the aspect of this when it comes down to training. Yes, having a knife is a deadly force situation, absolutely, or the potential to be. But there's also other things that had to be taken into consideration. This guy is going away from the officers, right? He's wheeling himself into the Lowe's store. Clearly, someone would say that and I'm sure that the defense is going to say, if he gets to that Lowe's store, he could take hostages, he can do whatever, or he could stab you know. And I'm not discounting that, but what I am saying is that that at this particular time, the guy's moving the other way. Is Taser involved? Should Taser have been involved? Should pepper spray, OC spray have been involved? Absolutely. I mean, this guy, we don't get a good look as to the level of incapacitation that this man is, right? Did this guy possess enough ambulatory ability to get out of the wheelchair and fight with the officers? You know, this is stuff that will have to be covered in the investigation. This is the thought. This is the thinking that needs to go on in these officers' minds. Is, you know, what is the level of a true threat here? I'm really trying to understand why you would. I don't even understand pulling out the guns. Quite honestly, I think that's what I'm saying. Is I don't even know. And listen, I've had confrontation with people. I don't know if I always immediately pulled out my weapon. I can't say that I would. I'm not saying that they were wrong to do that, but I'm just saying that this guy's in a wheelchair. I can't take a guy in a wheelchair. I can't incapacitate a guy in a wheelchair. Now, there is something that we know in law enforcement as the 18-foot rule, or the 21-foot rule, depending what instructor you talk to. More than likely, it's 21-foot rule that people who have knives are certainly a threat up to 21 feet before your reaction time is able to stop them. You're able to flee or run away or get a shot off and all that. Yeah, I get all that. But the guy's in a wheelchair. He's going to have to stand up. Why not OC spray this guy? Why not taser this guy? 2 officers taking out their gun. I'm trying to do this thought exercise as to how this escalated so fast, and I think this is going to be very, very problematic for the officer. Quite honestly, I mean, obviously, this is why I'm doing it. So, one more time, we'll play it. Here we see the officer getting out of her car. She's fiddling with her keys, running over to the officer. Need to stop.
Do not go to the store, sir.
Stop now. You need to stop.
Man. Now, I want to let's one more time focus in. We'll try to play this. I mean, this video will be broken down and played slowly for the jury, for the prosecutor to see, you know, exactly what's going on here. But we can't see. Right. So this guy, it looks like this will be enhanced and all that. So we see the officer talking. Looks like is this the guy here? Oh, that's not him.
Not go to the store, sir.
Oh yeah. So he's wheeling himself and he's making this right-hand turn into the store. He's going up the side and then he's wheeling to the right, away from the officers, going into the store, where again, I will admit, there's the potential for this guy to stab someone and all that kind of stuff. Now they're still running, still wheeling himself in the other direction.
Stop
Before he even gets to the door, the shot's being fired. Man, I'm just having a hard time with this. He might have been trying to get out of the chair, right? Because we know that everyone who's in these types of vehicles are not always fully incapacitated. Now, here we see the officer is. This is now the Lowe's TV for the audio portion. People who can't hear this. So here we see that the officer is behind these particular individuals, and here we see a Lowe's employee trying to seeing what's going on, seeing this guy coming to the store, and we got officers firing, or an officer firing in this direction. You can't stop a threat by becoming a bigger threat. I mean, now but you got to recognize your part of the training of firearms is understanding your backdrop. Again, this will be broken down. I'm going to rewind this, play it again. This will be broken down. Was this guy trying to get up? Slumps over and he's gone. Really, really graphic. Really, really graphic. And then he goes to handcuff the guy. The other officer is now going to get the med kit in order to try to save this guy's life.
Bravo 15. We have one gunshot victim. Officers are code 4.
Bravo 15, is it code 4 for meds to move in at this point?
Bravo 15. I'll need units here. Code 3. We got a lot of people here.
10-4, stand by just one. Is it okay for meds to move in? Is the scene secure?
Yeah, scene's code 4. Meds can move in.
Okay, I do not believe that video right there, that the audio was linked up to that particular set of video. I'm sure that was later on when there was a crowd starting to gather around. So I want to go through. So we read through the article. This is what happened. We got a little bit of the backstory. Again, there's going to be a full investigation. We're going to talk to all witnesses, review all body cam footage, slow things down, enhance videos. I'll talk to witnesses and all that kind of stuff. So I want to go through their use of force policy, which I got to say, after reading, I thought first I was like, oh wow, this has been updated, as you can see here, revised June 11, 2021, right? I'm sure that they had lawyers look at this. I'm sure that they had other police experts look at this. And I'm sure that this was largely in response to the George Floyd protests and calls for transparency. And this is Tucson's a large police department. I believe it's one of the top 100 largest cities in the United States. So they got this use of force policy. It goes through it, and it's got a duty to intervene, one of the top things. A duty to render aid. Definitions. They have definitions. I would have liked to see more application to this, and not just definitions. So they got definitions of de-escalation. Is it acting or communicating verbally or non-verbally with a potential force encounter to stabilize the situation and reduce the immediacy of a threat so that more time, options, and resources are available to resolve the situation using the least force necessary. De-escalation is also in an effort to reduce or end the need the force and the threat has been diminished. When reasonable, officers will gather information about the incident, assess the risk, assemble resources, attempt to slow momentum, communicate with the suspect, provide an opportunity for compliance, and coordinate a response. Officers should use warning, verbal persuasion, and other tactics as alternatives to higher police force when feasible. An officer may withdraw to a position that is tactically more secure or allows greater distance in order to consider or deploy a greater variety of force options, right? So this de-escalation is not only the verbal type of thing, communicating with the suspect, but it also has to deal with taking your time and slowing things down. The officer's walking through the parking lot with this man. He doesn't sound excited by his. The officer does not sound excited by his tone and inflections as he's speaking and talking on the radio. So how does it happen that he goes to seemingly very monotone, very matter of fact, very almost dismissive? Yeah, this guy's kind of just walking to the parking lot. You know, he pulled a knife on me and lost prevention. And he goes from that to 9 shots. It's just crazy. So this is the policy that this officer had roughly 6 months to think about before he pulled the trigger the 9 times. It was revised June 11th. He had from June 11th to December 4th to dissect this policy, to digest this policy, to ask questions about this policy, to review all the PowerPoints and get clarification from supervisors, use and force instructors. And I don't understand how this happened. I really don't understand. That's why I'm doing this video. I thought about this all day yesterday. I'm thinking about it right now as I'm talking. I don't understand how this happened. All right, so there's got these definitions of what a lawful purpose, force. So we'll get into deadly force in a little bit, but this is almost universal about how policies are written. The lawful purpose, right? There's a purpose when officers can use force, right? It's to effect an arrest, a detention, or search, overcome resistance, prevent escape, right? Maybe this officer thought this guy was trying to prevent escape, prevent the commission of a crime, defend themselves or others, gain compliance with the lawful order, or prevent a person from being injured, from injuring himself, herself. However, an officer is prohibited from using lethal force against a person who presents only a danger to himself and does not pose an imminent threat of serious bodily injury or risk of death to another person. In other words, somebody's got a gun to their head, you can't shoot them in order to stop them from committing suicide, right? So if they got a knife to their own throat and they're only going to kill themselves, you can't say, "Oh God, drop the knife, I'm going to shoot you," right? So that's what that's saying. Objectively reasonable is a standard that says that officers can only use force. Can only use force when another officer trained to the same level would use force in a similar situation, right? Objectively reasonable, right? What would another reasonably trained officer do in similar circumstances? Proportionality. Officers shall balance the circumstances known or perceived to be known at the time of the severity of the offense committed, the subject's level of resistance, and the immediacy of the threat, right? So this is all the things that have to be going through this officer's mind. What is the officers shall balance the circumstances known or to perceived or known to or perceived by the officer at the time when the severity of the crime of the offense was committed. What is the severity of the crime there? We have a robbery. They say it's a larceny, but it's really a robbery. It's not going to a store, guns blazing, saying, "Give me all your money, or I'm going to start shooting people." It's not that. It's not that. So while it technically is a robbery, and I'm assuming that I'm just taking for assumption that Arizona law reads very familiar to Connecticut law. The suspect's level of resistance. What level is he resisting? He's absolutely resisting. He's fleeing. He's not listening to officers. He's absolutely resisting. In the immediacy of the threat. What is the immediacy of the threat? They still got time, right? We went through or read through their de-escalation definitions. They still got time, right? He has not entered the store. From the looks of the body camera and vantage point, you probably only see one person who's could potentially be taken hostage if you want to go down that road, right? That would be the Lowe's store employee there. So the proportionality seems to be very, very severe. Provocation, in other words, police officers can't get there and start provoking individuals and saying, "Well, listen, I had to defend myself." Right. So these are all definitions that I'm reading here. Use of force prohibited. Police officers cannot use, or members of the Tucson Police Department cannot use force to punish or retaliate against individuals who only confront them verbally, unless the vocalization specifically impedes a legitimate law enforcement purpose and creates an immediate safety concern. I have a problem with that wording. If it's only, F you, I'm not doing it, okay. But if the officer starts making threatening assessments, you come in close and I'm going to kick your I'm going to kick your ass. I don't think that use of force should be prohibited. And this is use of force, period, right? I'm not talking about deadly use of force, right? That's the end of taking out your gun and then shooting someone. They're talking about use of force is prohibited, period. You can't tase anyone. You can't OC spray anyone? Wow. I mean, yeah. On a handcuffed or otherwise restrained subject, except in such exceptional circumstances, when the subject's actions must be stopped to prevent injury, escape, or destruction of property. In such circumstances, officers shall articulate why force is necessary and why no effective alternative to use force appeared to exist. Then they have a force model. In the force model here, they talk about the nature of the offense, the immediacy of the threat faced by the officer or others, the behavior and action of the suspect, such as resistive acts, aggressive acts, etc., the physical size and conditioning of the suspect. Yeah, the physical size and conditioning. This guy's in a wheelchair. Just wow. Relative to the other, the feasibility and availability of alternative responses and the availability of additional officers, medical conditions of the person, mental impairment, developmental disability, physical limitations, age, language barrier, drug or alcohol intoxication, mental health crisis, and hearing impairment. These are all things that officers had to consider. Does this person suffer from that? This guy's in a wheelchair. Why was he not considering that? Levels of resistance. You guys can pause it here or go to tucson.gov and read up on their policies. It does talk about the use of vascular and neck restraints, carotid or chokeholds. Carotid or chokeholds is prohibited. Pointing firearms. So if you're a citizen out there and you point a gun and officers point their gun at you, force has been used against you. If you're a police officer and you're pointing guns at people, you are using force against them. And I would assume almost everywhere, but this policy is for Tucson Police Department. Then there's the use of force and investigation portion, and then they talk about the chain of command, the supervisor responsibilities, command responsibilities, who's going to investigate what, the different types. They have type 1 and different levels and examples of all that kind of thing, and blue team, and I'm assuming that there's some kind of team who's going to look into this, make sure everything is above board and all that kind of stuff. So force review mechanisms, chain of command, and all that kind of stuff. So it's a 12-page document you guys can read through. I'm sure that there, in addition to just receiving the policy, there's training on the policy more than likely. That would include PowerPoints, and those will be subpoenaed and all that type of thing in order to get it. So I want to talk about something that was not mentioned very much, and I think really should be included in officers' decision making. It should be included not only in the use of force. It should be included in the use of force policy, and that is Tennessee versus Garner, Graham versus Connor, and all that kind of stuff. So this is from Police One. This is something that police officers should read. Civilians can go on it, right? Very reputable magazine for law enforcement officials, professionals, and all that kind of stuff. So what is permissible use of force? Police officers in all states are granted authority to use force to accomplish lawful objectives such as arrest, entry to serve a warrant or make an arrest, and detention. Right? Freeman versus Gore, Fifth Circuit. Right, they got the law right there. All use of force lawsuits are measured by standards established by the Supreme Court in Graham versus Connor, right, 1989, all that. In the Graham case, the court instructed lower courts to always ask 3 questions to measure the lawfulness of a particular use of force. What is the severity of the crime that the officer believed to be the suspect to have committed or be committing, right? In this case, the severity of the crime is a robbery, even though they said it's not. Even though he said it's a larceny, it's really a robbery. It's not the type of robbery of a home to the level of a home invasion. It's not the type of robbery where somebody enters into a store, guns blazing, and says, "Give me all the money, or I'm going to start shooting hostage or start shooting people." Has not risen to that level, right? This guy's not. He's wheeling himself away. He may have a knife, and it may have pulled in on the officers and pulled in on loss prevention. Why he didn't spray this guy in the store or in the parking lot? Why he didn't tase this guy before? Why he didn't? I wish that I knew. Maybe he was waiting for backup. Maybe it was part of their de-escalation training or thought process that I have to wait for backup in order to do anything. And now it's time to act before he encloses himself in a potentially hostage situation into another store and takes more hostages, pulls a knife on another loss prevention or security or a little kid. I don't know. I don't know. Second question that they need to ask is, did the suspect present an immediate threat to the safety of the officers or the public? This is all things that cops got to think about. And this is, as I laid out to you, it would have been better to spray this guy or OC tase this guy or even shoot the guy if you're going to shoot him. I'm not saying that the shooting is justified by standard. But if you're going to do it, why not do it in the parking lot when there's nobody around? Why would you wait till you're almost to the entrance of a store where the bullets can fly in and hit somebody? Why would I can't understand that. Was the suspect actively resisting arrest or attempting to escape? Well, he was doing that. I am completely confused as to this, but I try to get into the officer's head, and I know that he's got all these different things swimming in his mind, swimming in his head as he's trying to answer these questions, trying to make sure that his Graham versus Connor, his Tennessee versus Garner, in which police officers can shoot fleeing suspects. I think that's quite obvious. He could have done something differently. What could he and should he probably have done differently? He should have OC sprayed the guy. The guy's going in a different direction. Okay, he's going in a different direction. Let's tase this guy in the back. Okay, let's run up to him real quickly and let's spray him before anything happens. Let's do those types of things. Yes, before he gets into the store and potentially takes hostages or stabs someone or slices someone, etc. Take that. That's the thing he should have done. But I'm trying to get into the psychology of why he did what he did. And I know I'm probably speaking out of both sides of my mouth. The psychology is the training of the officers. And I'm not saying it's good or I'm not saying it's bad. I haven't looked at their PowerPoint presentations. I wasn't there when their training officers were going over whatever they were going over and saying whatever they're saying. But you have to understand that police officers are often trained to be scared at many times, trained to be concerned, trained to be watching hands, trained to be cautious and careful and not allow things to get worse. Nobody, because certainly if this situation had gotten worse, then we would have crucified this officer because he didn't take charge, because he didn't do anything. So this is not an easy case. It's my prediction that he will be arrested in a week, charges filed, and more than likely go to court, probably go to jail for this, in all honesty. But I think that training officers, those officers who train people, training officers, really should take a hard look at this case and really try to iron out, not only just mention de-escalation tactics. And I'm assuming that Tucson has done this. I'm not saying that they haven't not done this. But I'm saying that all officers really should take a look at this type of video and analyze it and say, what should I have done? He slowed down. He was already slow. Why did you now decide to act, and why did you do this? That's just crazy. It's crazy that he did this. But you have to take into consideration what's happening and what they should do, what's happening, and understand these laws, procedures, policies, Tennessee versus Garner, Graham versus Connor. Analyze them, understand this, understand the three-pronged test, the severity of the crime, the ability to, and your policies. The three-pronged test, as I went over. The severity of the crime. The suspect posed an immediate threat to the safety of you or the public. Was the suspect actively resisting or attempting to escape? Right. So these are all things that you have to consider. Man, woo. Well, let me know your thoughts, your opinions, rate, subscribe, share, all that kind of good stuff. Until next time, much love and peace, everyone. Police reform is more than just a trending topic. My name is Lawrence Hunter. I'm a retired police captain from the state of Connecticut, and I've written a new book called Police Reform. And I talk about the evolution of law enforcement here in America and what changes need to be made in order to improve the relationship between the police and the communities that they serve. Over the past few months, it has become increasingly more important and more evident that there's something amiss and awry between the police and the communities that they serve. So whether you're about defunding the police or defending the police, if you're about Blue Lives Matter or Black Lives Matter, no matter what side of the fence you happen to sit on, make sure that you pick up your copy of Police Reform today.